base. The main not so much vulnerable anymore, but across the north, I guess it's not as important though. So the dropships mostly for the anti-siege tank lines, and a lot of siege tanks moving across the north. And Fantasy actually at this stage doesn't look like he has a lot of troops in position. He still had those troops underneath stage to try to protect that command center at the mineral only, but now at risk of losing, it looks like that 3 o'clock location. If SkyHIgh can actually take this space out, he will end up winning the game over the long run. He's already in a pretty good position, and that dropship, gonna get taken out. There he's gonna lose spotting. He's also gonna lose his ability to really drop against that fixed line. And I think SkyHIgh has enough tanks where he's just gonna press forward into this, but he needs to be very careful and very calculating about doing it, because losing an attack force right now would be a big mistake. So it looks like he is going to be a little bit more careful. He's just going to try to maintain a position, maybe wait for some vultures to come in, just pick him off. Oh, nice positioning there. Able to just take the one siege tank off that top edge. If they can work that Goliath down, 2 SCVs trying to repair that. That's their only anti-air there, and that's going to be it. It looks like they are going to be able to take out maybe one siege tank, a couple vultures wandering up, but there's another Goliath here trying to defend in turn. But if that single Goliath gets taken out again, this is a huge battle. Finally going to have to back off, but I think the damage is done. SkyHIgh able to take out another siege tank, another Goliath, a couple more support troops. So you got 6 tanks right there. Oh, very clever. A couple hidden vultures able to wander in and again harass SkyHIgh in that upper left-hand corner, which will slow him down. The big advantage he did have there, it looks there's that trapped SCV helping with the micro of the Wraith, the group gathering. And it looks like Fantasy still at weapons 1, SkyHIgh at weapons 2. Huge advantage right now. I can't emphasize that enough. His tanks just hit harder. 2 shots versus the 3 at this stage. More tanks coming up, and he's going to be able to push into this. He's going to run right into that wall, throwing the vultures in to absorb the initial hits. Looks like plant a couple mines while he repositions his tanks. And honestly, Fantasy, while he's desperately trying to defend this 3 o'clock, SkyHIgh can take the rest of the map, and he also risks losing something kind of on that inside edge. Honestly, SkyHIgh with a really fast vulture force might be able to run something into that mineral only, surround those tanks there, take out that command center, or at least with the Wraith then to that would come in to support it. But it looks like the siege tanks are in shelling position of that command center. That's going to have to get lifted off before not too long here. And SkyHIgh, though, one thing, he has had map control, he has had more command centers, but he hasn't been producing a lot of SCVs. He hasn't been saturating those expansions very well. So Fantasy's still not out of this. He might be able to get another push in. Looks like there's only a couple siege tanks, a couple vultures there, but sieging short. Instead of pushing into it, he didn't really have any. Critically here, if you notice, Fantasy's been playing in the dark a lot of this game. He hasn't had a lot of the Wraith or the air or the dropships, the floating buildings to really spot kind of into the dark across these small skirmishes. SkyHigh's really done a good job of controlling that, particularly through the mid-game and into the late game, and that's been all the difference. That plus the upgrades has been absolutely devastating. As a result, Fantasy's been a little bit hesitant in his attacks, whereas SkyHigh's been much more confident with the comm sets, pushing forward and looking kind of the supplemental back forces, the supplemental reinforcements. It looks like some big siege tank wall trying to retake that 9 o'clock position desperately. But the longer this game goes on, this is actually to SkyHigh's favor. Let Fantasy throw troops at that wall. Let him be contained to just this bottom right-hand corner. Command center lifting off to provide some sight right there to try to do something. Again, it looks like he's still actually just been running off that 5 or 6 factories, actually. I don't think it's even 7 at this stage. He just hasn't had the gas. He hasn't had the minerals that have remained on the field for long enough. And SkyHIgh once again losing his Wraith here and just kind of pushing him in. It looks like that is going to allow him to get the siege tanks into that siege position, but I'm not sure if that was really worth the trade-off. But I don't think it matters at this point. Fantasy's been contained to this bottom right-hand side of the map. SkyHigh's been able to get those 2 expansions in that upper left-hand corner. I think he's taking another command center in that upper right, and the gas has just been building up, which is just a larger, even though he has a wider area to try to contain him, larger area to defend. It just feels like SkyHigh's been doing a better job of maneuvering, and it looks like he's going to unsiege in preparations to just push up, kind of seal that ramp again, and pin pin Fantasy even further into the back of his base, completely denying that mineral only now, taking out, looks like only 1 siege tank left there. I wonder if this is it has to be a little bit of a click mistake here from Fantasy. Maybe he's just been trying to save the gas to try to eke out one less siege tank, one more siege tank here and there. Just got caught in that Wraith transition at a bad time. But I still can't believe he didn't have weapons too much earlier. A ton of turrets going up to the north to make sure that command center can't float out there. Additionally, dropships can't sneak that direction, and Wraith can't make it through that position. It doesn't look like any additional Wraith are being produced here by SkyHIgh, and it looks like he's going to take the 12 o'clock, so he owns all the real estate on this map. He's in an excellent position. He's got he has Boardwalk and Park Place and the hotels at this stage, and and he's going to run in with a couple tanks just to display them. What better thing? 2 dropships, but with those turrets in the way, I don't see it happening. This is Fantasy's kind of last-second, last-ditch effort, and even with just 2 turrets, I don't think it's going to do anything. Looks like it was comp-setted actually a long time ago, so Fantasy knew it was, or I'm sorry, SkyHIgh knew it was coming. So it looks like the winning streak might get stopped here. Another command center being built in that upper right-hand corner. Some siege tanks finally pushing through, SCVs barreling and trying to absorb some hits there to try to push up to the main. This is really the only weak point. It's the only, and 4 dropships that weren't even spotted on the map. 5 dropships actually, looks like in that group. To stop that attack cold, and all SkyHIgh has to do is show that he has them. It's like, hey, look, I've got a bunch of dropships. I got units in them, and I think that's going to be enough to make Fantasy GG. He's got 3 dropships of his own, but yeah, if he was going to win this, he was going to have to drop on that factory line. That's not going to happen, especially with all those turrets in the way. And yeah, and even if he did, those 5 dropships that are on the opposite side are just going to pummel that. And it looks like the science facility being brought in position to try to absorb the hits of those turrets, but again, I still don't think it's going to matter. Let's wait for that science facility. I think it's going to make a dash for it here, but it looks like a lot of units being brought back around, and SkyHIgh not even going to wait for it. He's going to bring the dropships around and go for an attack directly into Fantasy's main. I don't even think he's got any... I'm sorry, he's actually going to drop the 3 o'clock position rather than the main. And there's the science facility absorbing that attack. Siege tanks dropping right there. Let's see if the reinforcements, as well as the backup troops that were kind of in that arena, are going to be enough to kind of fight that off. I still think this hurts Fantasy more than it hurts SkyHIgh. SkyHIgh can... it doesn't look like they're quite in siege range. It looks like now the reinforcements coming around. He can lift a lot of that up, back it up, where that command center is now dead at the 9 o'clock, and that was Fantasy's only producing base. With the 4 bases that SkyHIgh has running, he can almost rebuild everything and still end up taking this. And so Fantasy, to win this, has got to kill absolutely everything, and he's given up that ridge position, which very nice. I like that strategy on SkyHigh's part. He's actually going to use that ridge position to his own advantage. And keep in mind, there's that attack force that was at the 3 o'clock that's going to come barreling in there right on cue. It's going to come barreling in. Looks like some dropships. I'm not sure if there's even any troops in those dropships to go, but I take it back. Fantasy's managed to take out 3 of the factories. More factories. Okay, there's more factories being built. So again, just kind of Pyrrhic victory. Wasn't a really good exchange, and yeah, all sorts of factories being plopped down. All sorts of factories being plopped down there. And even if Fantasy does win this fight, he's got to win the rest of this game on the few tanks that he has, and he can't really, with his tanks locked at this position, he really cannot take the rest of the map, I don't believe. So I still think this is a loss for Fantasy, although it is an impressive attack after the fact. So I can't see SkyHIgh GGing here. And now it looks like he's just going to try to take out that attack force there, losing a lot of tanks. See, needlessly losing a dropship as well. And it looks like those siege tanks that were at the 3 o'clock position, instead of coming back, a lot of them, actually, I'm sorry, those were from the middle of the map. There's GG from Fantasy. SkyHIgh takes it. I think that was all of the attack troops that Fantasy had there going into SkyHigh's base. Fantasy knew he couldn't hold it back, so it looks like the streak has ended. Very impressive defensive play there by Fantasy, but still SkyHIgh coming out with the victory, and again showing that he's a dangerous player. CJ Entus goes up 1-0 over SKT. Thanks for listening, guys.
확실히 이런 페이스만 유지가 된다면 큰 무대에서도 역시 떨지 않고 자신의 플레이 그리고 상대방의 에이스급 선수를 무조건 잡아낼 수 있는 이런 분위기를 현재까지도 보여주고 있다고 봐야 됩니다.
그렇죠. 누가 나와도 상관이 없는 선수가 조병세 선수입니다.
네, 정명훈 선수가 워낙 게임이 잘 되기 때문에 초반부터 아주 자신감 있는 경기 운영을 했는데